20-odd men were alive in the jungle, and every aircraft that could reach them was an aircraft that could not land. So in August 1943, a flight surgeon and 2 medics did something that had never been tried as doctrine. They jumped out of a working airplane into Japanese-held Burma, carrying medical kits instead of ammunition. One of the men they came for was a CBS war correspondent named Eric Saveride. That jump created a career field that still exists today. And here is the part almost nobody knows. The Air Force does not classify these men as a unit. On paper, they are a weapon system. This is every weapon Air Force Pararescue actually uses. They are called pararescuemen. In the Air Force, they are called PJs, short for parajumpers, and they wear a maroon beret that has meant the same thing since 1966. Their motto is 3 words long: that others may live. Understanding their equipment requires understanding one strange fact about how the Air Force organizes them. Most military hardware is a thing: an aircraft, a rifle, a radar. Guardian Angel, the program these men belong to, is officially designated a weapon system, and the components of that weapon system are human beings. Pararescuemen, combat rescue officers, and survival specialists, plus everything they carry. The Air Force is saying something very specific with that paperwork. It is saying the man is the weapon and the rifle is an accessory. That sounds like a slogan until you look at what they carry and notice that the heaviest thing on a pararescue man is almost never his gun. The rifle is an M4A1 carbine, and at first glance, it is the same weapon 250,000 American servicemen have carried. 5.56 millimeter, gas-operated, fully automatic. What separates a pararescue rifle from an infantry rifle is not the receiver. It is everything bolted to it and everything left off. Their carbines are built out of the Special Operations Peculiar Modification Program, the accessory catalog that American Special Operations units draw from. Free-floating rail. Suppressor frequently. A holographic or red dot sight rather than magnification, because the ranges are short and the light is usually bad. A weapon light, because a pararescue man is often the only person in the aircraft who has a reason to look at a face. Some teams carry the shorter variant, a 10.5-inch barrel built around close quarters work, which trades muzzle velocity for the ability to move through a helicopter door and erect fuselage without catching on anything. That trade tells you what the Air Force expects the fight to look like, not a firefight across a valley. A fight in a doorway, in the dark, with a wounded man on the floor behind you. And there is a design constraint here that no other special operations unit shares to the same degree. Everything on that rifle has to work while its owner is doing something else with both hands. A pararescue man may be running an airway, controlling a bleed, or clipping a litter to a cable. The rifle spends much of the mission slung across his chest, out of the way, doing nothing. It is not the tool that defines his job. It is the tool that lets him keep doing his job when the situation gets a vote. The sidearm follows the same logic. The Air Force selected the SIG Sauer M18, the compact version of the pistol the American military adopted to replace the Beretta. 9mm, striker fired, 17 rounds in the standard magazine, and 21 in the extended one. The Air Force chose the compact. The Army went with the full-size M17. That is a small procurement footnote with a large meaning behind it. A compact pistol is a pistol you can wear when you're already wearing everything else, and a pararescueman is already wearing everything else. For a man who might be hanging under a helicopter, floating in the open ocean, or crawling through a fuselage, the pistol is not a fighting weapon. It is the weapon that exists. For the moment, the rifle is gone or is unreachable, or was never brought because there was no room for it. A word on precision here. Unit loadouts are not published in any single official document, and they vary by squadron, by theater, and by mission. What is documented is the equipment family, the accessory program, the adopted sidearm, the aircraft, and its approved armament. Where the record is specific, this video is specific. Where it is not, it says so. Now the equipment that actually defines them. The training pipeline runs roughly 2 years, one of the longest in the American military for an enlisted specialty, and the Air Force has reported attrition above 80% in some classes. The men who finish are certified paramedics, military freefall parachutists, and combat divers. All 3 of those qualifications come with their own hardware, and all 3 are carried at once. The jump kit is military freefall, which means high-altitude exits with oxygen. An oxygen mask and bottle, an altimeter, a helmet, and a ram air canopy that can be steered onto a specific point rather than a general area. Below the jumper, a rucksack rides on a lowering line so it hits the ground first instead of breaking his legs. The dive kit is a closed-circuit rebreather rather than open-circuit scuba, because a rebreather does not release a column of bubbles to the surface. That equipment exists, so a pararescue man can reach a downed pilot in water without announcing his arrival, which tells you the water is not always friendly. The armor is deliberately incomplete. A pararescue man generally wears less protection than an infantryman doing the same distance, because every plate he adds is weight he takes away from the medical bag, and the medical bag is the reason he came. Which brings us to the heaviest thing he carries. A pararescue medical ruck routinely outweighs the combat load. Inside it, tourniquets, chest seals, needles for decompressing a collapsed lung, surgical airway kits, intravenous fluids, blood products in some configurations, splints, hypothermia wrap, and drugs that require a paramedic license to administer. The weight arithmetic runs in one direction. Ammunition is finite and replaceable. A decompression needle that is not in the bag when a lung collapses cannot be substituted by anything else on the aircraft. When something has to come off the load, it is rarely the medicine. There is a phrase used in trauma medicine, the golden hour, describing the window in which a badly injured person is most likely to survive if he reaches surgical care. The entire American rescue architecture is built around beating that clock. Pararescue is the part of it that arrives when a helicopter cannot land, when there is no road, when the casualty is behind a line that no ambulance is going to cross. That is why the paperwork calls them a weapon system. The Air Force does not measure them by what they destroy. It measures them by how many people are alive at the end of the day who would otherwise not be. The aircraft that carries them is the HH-60W Jolly Green II, and it is one of the newest airframes in the Air Force inventory. It replaces the HH-60G Pave Hawk, an aircraft that flew combat rescue for more than 3 decades and was, by the end, being held together well past its design life. The name is inherited. Jolly Green Giant was what crews called the big rescue helicopters of Vietnam, and it stuck across 3 generations of airframe. Carrying it forward was a deliberate choice. The mission has not changed since Southeast Asia. Only the machine flying it has. The Jolly Green II is built on the Black Hawk airframe, but the interior is not a troop compartment. It is a flying treatment room, with more internal fuel than the aircraft it replaced, better armor, and a defensive suite designed for an environment where the enemy expects rescue helicopters to come. Its guns sit in the windows. The standard fit is a 50 caliber machine gun on each side, with a 7.6 2mm alternative available depending on the mission. On paper, those are defensive weapons. In practice, on a combat rescue, they are the reason the aircraft can hover long enough for 2 men to come down a cable and get back up it. There is also a refueling probe on the nose, which matters more than it looks. A helicopter that can take fuel from a tanker in flight is a helicopter that can reach a survivor who is beyond the range of every other helicopter in theater. Range on this mission is a weapon. The water is its own environment with its own equipment. Fins, mask, a wetsuit or dry suit, an inflatable rescue platform, and a signaling kit that works when nothing electronic does. Pararescue trains for the open ocean specifically because the ocean is where a downed aircrew is least likely to be found by anyone else and most likely to die of temperature rather than trauma. And that capability leads somewhere almost nobody expects. When an American astronaut comes home and the capsule lands in the water, the people who reach it are pararescuemen. The Department of Defense maintains a human spaceflight support mission, and rescue squadrons train against it, reaching a splashed capsule, opening it, and treating people who have just spent months in zero gravity and cannot stand up. The requirement is not ceremonial. A capsule that lands off target puts a crew in open water with no ship nearby, and the only asset that can be over that position quickly is an aircraft full of people who are willing to jump out of it. The Alaska Air National Guard rehearses the hardest version of that problem, the one where a capsule comes down in cold high-latitude water and the clock is measured in minutes rather than hours. It is the same jump, the same rebreather, the same medical ruck. Different door. So the answer to the question is a little strange. The weapons of Air Force Pararescue are an M4A1, an M18, a .50 caliber gun in a helicopter window, and a rucksack full of things designed to keep a heart beating. The Air Force built a weapon system whose purpose is to take people off the battlefield alive, and then built the men to carry it. If you want to see the other half of that equation, the aircraft that does the destroying rather than the saving, watch our video on the AC-130 gunship next. And if you want to keep seeing what American hardware actually looks like when the paperwork is stripped away, subscribe.